Hello again, I'm Robert Fithin, and Halloween's coming up, and I usually try to do some kind of video for Halloween, and in the past I've done, the ones about scary albums and devil music, and I did a whole series on horror movies from the 80s and all that kind of stuff. And this year I was wondering what I was going to do, and then a few things happened around the same time, and it's like, okay, I've got it. This is what I want to do for Halloween. First of all, the major thing, the sad passing of Ace Frehley. I wanted to definitely do a video talking about him and growing up with Kiss and the music and everything, but I'd already done a video, and you can check that out, about my childhood being obsessed with Kiss as a 7 and 8-year-old, and I showed all the old photos of stuff. I had all the, a bunch of Kiss toys and Kiss game and Kiss makeup and Kiss color forms and puzzles and Kiss guitar and all that kind of stuff. Kiss clothing. I even showed my little clothing, my little Kiss suit I had when I was a little kid. Still have that. Wish I still had everything. I showed this in that video, but I did not show that I still actually, yes, I still have the pants. So I found those. But yeah, I showed all that stuff, but I didn't really talk about specific albums or songs or whatever in that video. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that. And then the As It Should Be channel comes out with a list of their favorite top 20 Kiss songs. And, Halloween's coming up, and I was Peter Criss for Halloween 2 years in a row. And so I thought, all these things are happening. It's definitely time to do a Kiss video based on the music that I grew up with and not necessarily the toys and the photos and stuff like that. So here are my top 20 Kiss songs, top favorites. Like I said, I got into Kiss when I was 7, 8 years old, was obsessed with them, had to have all the albums, and then I did get all the albums for an absolute stroke of luck. But it all started off with double platinum and the 2 8-tracks. That was the first Kiss I ever got, and then my sister, somebody just gave her a bunch of Kiss albums, and she gave them to me, and it was like, oh my, all at once. I went from double platinum to having just about everything. With the exception of Dress to Kill and Record 1 from Alive 2. Those were not in there. But, yeah, incredible. So, grew up with that, 7, 8 years old, obsessed, listened to the records over and over and over and over again. And like I mentioned in the other video, something happened in like late 79, 80, where I just got turned off, didn't even get unmasked, didn't care anymore, and went right on to being obsessed with the Beatles later on. So I think I finally may have figured out what that was. I think it was when they fired, or he quit, whatever the story is, Peter Criss left. And I think that upset me maybe or something. I don't know what it was, but I just got completely disillusioned with Kiss. And yeah, so Kiss are two different groups to me. There's the 70s group that I was absolutely obsessed with as a kid. All that nostalgia just gets triggered. And there's great, as I found out later when I started revisiting those old albums when I was a teenager, a lot of that stuff is absolutely great. So it's that Kiss, and then the Kiss of the 80s and beyond, which I really don't care too much about. So if that makes me not a true Kiss fan, fine, I'm not a true Kiss fan. But just, this is where we're going with this. I've got a top 20, and it's all the 1970s Kiss, because that's the only Kiss I care about. Some honorable mentions before I get to the top 20. I'm not doing the solo albums, I'm not including those, but if I were, you can bet that there'd be a few songs off of this album. Ace Frehley absolutely had the best solo Kiss album, in my opinion. If you want the best tracks of all four, you want to put them together and make a Kiss album, there they are. Whoop. There's a couple cool tunes on the Paul Stanley one, maybe one on the Gene Simmons one, even the Peter Criss, for what it was, his jazzy kind of whatever, there might have been one on there, but really, right here's the track listing for the best of the Kiss solo albums, and I'm in Need of Love. Awesome. That would have been on there. Ozone would have been on there. I'm the kind of guy, like, What's on Your Mind's pretty cool. Even the instrumental Fractured Mirror is great. Rip It Out, Yeah, but I'm not including the solo album, so if I were, though, there'd be a few of those tunes. Also, another honorable mention, and I swear this is the last one before I get to the list, I Was Made for Lovin' You. It's not one of my top 20 favorites. It probably would make my top 25. I just wanted to include it on the honorable mentions because I just want to say I don't hate the song. I was a little kid when this came out. I didn't understand they've sold out and gone disco or whatever. I liked disco when I was 8 years old, so it was fine for me. And if I didn't show I Was Made for Loving You and the Dynasty album, then I wouldn't show anything on this album, because nothing else on this album is in my top 20. So I just wanted to show Dynasty. I remember getting this brand new and sitting there and just all the way home staring at the cover. This was the first Kiss album I ever got brand new. I got the solo one, but brand new in the shrink wrap from the store, and just stared at it all the way home. The double platinum, when I got the record of that, was for Christmas, so I didn't stare at that all the way home, and I didn't get that in a record store. But anyway, my top 20 favorite Kiss songs. At number 20, it's God of Thunder and Rock and Roll. The Spell You're Under is going to rob you of your virgin soul. You got the producer's little kids in there as minions. I guess he put his kids on a lot of different albums, but from Kiss Destroyer, it is God of Thunder. I guess considered one of the more scary Kiss songs. I always thought it was pretty cool. I love the way it's kind of slowed down, and then on a live too, you can actually hear it performed live, and you hear it in its actual speed before they actually slowed it down and made it sound even more evil. So, and speaking of Alive and Alive 2, I'm not doing any, these are all studio tracks. None of these are the live versions, so that would be a whole different thing to try to compare live versions to studio versions. So these are all studio versions. At number 19, it's Watching You. Another Gene song. Nothing left to do, and I'm watching you, yeah. Everybody, yeah. You know who's real? You got to watch the As It Should Be channel to hear Paul Barlino's Gene Simmons vocal impersonation is one of the funniest things that I've ever heard in my entire life. Definitely check that out. I can't even try to do that. But from Hotter Than Hell, it's Watching You. Everybody's watching you, and I'm watching you, and everybody's watching me, and I'm watching us. And I just love the whole feel of that song and how everybody's watching everything going on. So that's number 19. At number 18, I'm a Capricorn and she's a Cancer. She saw my picture in a music magazine. Come on and love me. Great song from Dress to Kill. Like I said before, this was not in the big stack of Kiss records that I got as a kid. I had to get this one a little bit later. But this is my actual copy that I had when I was a little kid. This is not, I got this new, and as you can see, it's not, the original blue label. I probably got this in 1970, late 78, probably more like early 79, I guess. And so, Kiss is one of those bands, one of the few bands that I have multiple copies of their albums. I have the album that I had when I was a little kid in most cases, and then have a better copy that I got later on. Because when I was a little kid, I didn't exactly treat my records with the utmost care. I think I treated them better than most kids would treat their albums. But I bought record cleaners and would try to, shady record cleaners, and would always clean them. But I remember not ever, I remember even being a little kid, I knew not to touch the record and stuff like that. So, so at number 18, it's, 18, it's Come On and Love Me. After that, speaking of love, it's Love Gun, the title track from Love Gun. This is just a lot of energy. Great way to kick off this album. Would be a great way to kick off this album, but actually it doesn't kick off this album. It's these are not listed in order, because I just realized, this is not the first track on here at all. It's I Stole Your Love, right? Yeah. So, Love Gun. Great art. Man, the Destroyer and the Love Gun artwork. Just incredible. But that's iconic. So is Destroyer, obviously. I never understood why Kiss didn't do more with their back covers. Their back covers were always vacant. Come on, look at this. That's the usual back cover from Kiss. Just titles, or maybe the setting for the first album with the band missing. Anyway, Love Gun at number 17. At number 16, another one from Destroyer. Kind of a hot take here. I know not a lot of people are going to agree with this, but Beth. Yeah, Beth. I always thought that was really cool. First of all, I loved Peter Criss growing up. He was my favorite. He made me want to be a drummer, I never wanted to be a rock star when I was an older kid or whatever. But when I was a little kid, I used to, you always fantasize about, most people are fantasizing about up there with the guitar, rocking out, doing solos, or up there singing, doing your rock star moves, and, point to the audience or whatever. I always wanted to be a drummer when I was a little kid, and it was because of Peter Criss and Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees. Those were the two drummers that I knew. I mean, John Bonham and Neil Peart and Jim Keltner and Nick Mason. I didn't know who any of those people were when I was 8 years old, but I knew who Peter Criss was and Mickey Dolenz. I didn't even know who Ringo Starr was when I was 8. But yeah, I just thought he was so cool. And then he comes out and does his own ballad. And for what it is, it's a great song. It's great that Kiss could change it up and then have a huge, I think that's their biggest hit, right? If not their second biggest. I don't count that. I don't know what Forever was in 1989. I'm not interested. But for my era, Beth was their biggest hit single. And yeah, great that they could pull that off. I always liked that song. At number, where we at? Number 16, 15, something like that. I'm already losing count. We got to go back to this album. No, we got to go to this album for this one. It's She. And the reason I pulled out double platinum for She is because I'm ranking the double platinum version, because that's the one where they take the rock bottom, acoustic thing at the beginning. I love that. Rock bottom's okay, but I like She more. So I love the one on double platinum where they put the rock bottom intro into She and that cool little guitar thing at the end. Devo does that in one of their songs later on. So I'm thinking Devo copied Kiss. I can't remember what song that is, but Be Stiff? Is that? Yeah, it's Be Stiff from Devo. It has the same guitar lick at the end of She from Kiss. Kiss was first. But yeah, She from Kiss. She walks by moonlight. Doesn't really know. Where are we at? Number 14? Number 14, we go back to Love Gun. For Ace on vocals, it's Shock Me. Put on your black leather. Shock Me. His voice is not the most dynamic voice. It's not the most operatic voice. But his voice always to me sounded so damn cool. I'm a big fan of people with character voices. I never really cared about as much about staying in perfect pitch and hitting all these different notes and going way up here, way down there. I like character in voices. This is why I love Bob Dylan stuff from the mid-'60s and Janis Joplin and just all these people that have this character in their voice and can really sell an idea or a setting or a feeling. And Ace is just so cool. His voice he just sounds like he's just kind of like rocking out, not trying to impress anybody. Always loved Ace's vocal. I wish he would have done more on some earlier Kiss albums, but we finally get to him with Shock Me from Love Gun. After that, we're up to number 13, I believe. I'm already losing count here. Hard Luck Woman from Rock and Roll Over. Speaking of different vocalists, now you got Peter Criss on vocal. That nice raspy voice. That's the thing. Paul and Gene were always out front with the vocals. They do many, many more lead vocals on Kiss songs than Ace or Peter. But Ace and Peter got great vocals. Peter's raspy, bluesy kind of, vocal, it works so well on this Hard Luck Woman song. A little country Kiss going on that. I think every time they want to switch up their sound a little bit, they put Peter out in front just so that if it didn't work or the fans hated it, we'll just blame him, but it totally works. Love the country thing that they did with that, and Peter's voice works so well with that. At number 12, you got Paul Stanley asking the musical question, Do You Love Me? From Dressed to Kill. Now, that song's pretty cool. I always like the beginning of that where it's like, you really like my limousine. You like the way the wheels roll. You like my 7-inch leather heels. That's one of the best lines from any Kiss song ever. His 7-inch leather heels. But yeah, so Dressed to Kill is what that's off of. But yeah, Do You Love Me? You love all this stuff. You love backstage passes and all the money, honey, that I make and all the masquerade. But do you love me? Paul Stanley's just looking for love. So yeah, there's that from Dressed to Kill. We are on to number 11, and that is from Hotter Than Hell. A song you don't hear a lot about, a really short song, but Gene vocal on this one. Let Me Go, Rock and Roll, kind of a hard rock, kind of little rockabilly kind of throwback. Rock and roll. You know, it's a lot of fun though. The squealing guitar in that as well. I mean, just a great song that really gets kind of overlooked, from Hotter Than Hell into side one and Let Me Go, rock and roll. Okay, I wasn't going to do live tracks. I said that. But this album contains studio tracks on side 4, and by far the best one of those comes up in position number 10, and that is another Ace Frehley vocal and Rocket Ride with a super guitar lick on that. That's what makes that song that awesome guitar part. And that's the thing about rediscovering Kiss later on. When I was a little kid, I loved them because they were one of the first hard rock bands I ever heard. You know, and all they were on TV, and the makeup and the craziness and the, you know, outrageousness and the Ace from Space and Peter's the Cat and, you know, all that cool stuff. And I had friends that were just as into that kind of stuff, and their records were just awesome and whatever. And then, like I said, in 80, just kind of got disenchanted and kind of didn't care anymore. And then I kind of started listening again when I was an older teenager, like 15, 16. And I realized after a few listens when I was a little older that what makes these songs still rock, it's all about Ace's guitar licks. Those guitar riffs, licks, whatever, that, I will put those up against Zeppelin riffs, Rolling Stones riffs. I mean, they are iconic. They are super cool. Absolute, I mean, legendary on the guitar. And I don't think he gets the credit for that. I mean, some people give him the credit for it, and that's cool, but you got to search around to find those people. It's like, you get it with the Ace Frehley, because people just dismiss Kiss because of the gimmickry and the over-marketing, you know, Kiss coffins and Kiss whatever, everything's Kiss. Gene Simmons, you know. But it's really Ace's guitar riffs. And I love the way the drums are recorded, too. But that's what it's all about. That brought me back and was like, you know, this wasn't childhood shit. This is hard rock masterpieces, some of these, and it's certainly not about Gene Simmons' insipid lyrics. I mean, some of those are embarrassing. Paul Stanley's a decent vocalist. He's got a lot of character in his voice. As soon as he comes on singing, you know it's him. Got to give it up to Paul Stanley for the cool vocals, and I'm assuming he's a decent guitar player. Peter Criss actually really did some really good drumming on the early albums. I think he just got bored with it later on. You know, and there's stories about how he played bad to try to sabotage him. That's not too cool. But it was all, you know, listening again after all the years, you know, it's Ace Frehley's badass guitar riffs and just killer playing that really made those songs still stand up for me. And I could listen to them now as a man who is over half a century old and still get something out of a lot of these songs because of the killer guitar, you know, a lot of them. And then, you know, the firing off of the nostalgia stuff as well. But yeah, the killer guitar. So we're at number 8 right now. And that is off of Rock and Roll Over. Got a couple of copies of this one. Is this the one with the... This is not the one with the tear. Anyway, making love all night. Just a blast of energy. Paul Stanley's vocal on that is great. When I was a little kid, I thought he was saying, I just hate when the duck says quack. I just hate when the duck says quack, 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 quack. I don't know why he hates when the duck says quack, but... You know, I'm listening to this on a cheap Grand Prix stereo. That was the stereo I got. And I'm glad... Hey, listen, I'm glad I got a Christmas gift, I think it was. Maybe... Yeah, it was Christmas stereo, but it was, you know, a cheap one. It was Grand Prix, you know, with the 8-track and the record player. And, you know, the BSR turntable and, you know, cheap-ass Grand Prix stereo. Which, when I was a kid, I used to call Grand Prix. Because that's the way it's spelled. People are like, well, you stop saying, what? It's a Grand Prix. What do you... I got these looks like, stop saying that. I got a Grand Prix stereo. But yeah, Making Love from just an absolute blast of energy. That's one you just friggin' crank up. So what do we got coming up next? We got, oh man, we're finally getting there. We're finally at number 8, and we can finally whip this album out. The Debut. My favorite Kiss album. Now, the reason I haven't talked about a lot of tracks off this yet is because, spoiler alert, a lot of them are at the top of the list. But we are up to number 8, and that is Deuce. And I always say this, I always have to clarify, this was the one I grew up with. it is the one without Kissin' Time on it. If I was going to do a worst Kiss list, Kissin' Time would definitely be on there. I didn't even know that was a thing when I was growing up. I remember hearing that a lot later on. Like I was in my early 20s or something when I heard it. Kissin' Time. There's no song called Kissin' Time. And it's definitely not on their first album. Yeah, it is on some of them. This one, not this one. This one starts off side 2 the way it should be started, with the song Deuce, which Gene himself has said that that song is about nothing. The As It Should Be channel, when they were discussing their top 20 Kiss songs, were talking about how it doesn't make any sense. I thought it made sense when I always thought that song was about a guy named Jim, and he works hard, right? That's what it says in the lyrics. And, you know, you better treat him right because he's worth a damn. He's worth a deuce. He goes out and works hard so you can be happy and you can feel good and feel nice. You know, in addition to feeling good, you can feel nice, because those are apparently two different things. He goes out and works hard. He's worth a deuce. So, you know, listen to what he says and obey him. Do the things he says to do, because he's out there working hard so you can be happy, and quit acting like a grandma. Get that out of here and quit your crying. That's what I always thought Deuce was about. I don't know. So yeah, where are we at now? Number 7 is actually 2 songs. Because I got a rule. If you're going to hear Detroit Rock City, it's got to be followed up by King of the Nighttime World. I am not a fan of the double platinum one or the single one or the one that gets on the radio every once in a while where it just cuts off with that little orchestra ending, that little 2-note thing at the end. No. It's got to end with the crash and going right into King of the Nighttime World. What a 1-2 punch to start this album. Awesome. That's the only Detroit Rock City to hear. Detroit Rock City / King of the Nighttime World is my number 7. I mean, King of the Night. I actually like King of the Nighttime World more than I like Detroit Rock City, but the two of them just go together so magnificently. Number 6, we are going back to this album. This is the one with the little, it's not really a tear, it's just a misprint apparently, but it looks like Paul Stanley is crying blue tears on this RCA Club version of Rock and Roll Over. As I said, Kiss is one of the few bands that I have multiple copies of their album. So yeah, we are up to I Want You at number 6. I love it. Starts off the album, and I think they did it to be cute because this is coming right off of Beth, right? Beth is on Destroyer, so the next album is going to open up with this. In the morning I raise my head, with this acoustic guitar. I'm thinking of days gone by, and you think, oh man, this is going to be another light song. This is going to be another Beth, and then it just bam hits you with the I want you, and you can live your life till you die. You can live in a dream, but your life will pass you by. Every day that you hesitate, you're never changing the hand of fate. There's nothing you can do. I want you. Have you ever felt like that about somebody? I want you. I want you to do. I want you. I want number 5, and that is Rock and Roll All Night. Their big song. It's their opus. It's their iconic. What's the word I'm looking for? It's their whatever that word is. It's just totally escaped my mind. But it's their standard, their big song. I like the double platinum one a little more. A lot of the songs on here are actually remixed. Some slightly, some more than others. But the one on here seems to have a little more oomph than the one on Dressed to Kill. And I am not at all about that one on Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, where they take the 2 verses and put them at the beginning and then just keep repeating Rock and Roll All Night. So I'm not into that. But yeah, the one on here has a little more oomph for Rock and Roll All Night, and that is their absolute, that's their big stadium song. That's their, what is the word? It's their opus. It's their legendary, I'm going to put the word on the screen, because I cannot think of the word for a band when they have a big song, and that's what it is to Kiss. It's their, Rock and Roll All Night, party every day, man. The words to live by, and a great little 2-minute, 45-second song. The live version off of Live was the actual big hit single. But yeah, I always liked the studio one with the nice, clean drums that started off with. And you keep on dancing and the room gets hot. You drive us wild, we'll drive you crazy. You keep on shouting, I want to rock and roll all night. Coming in at number 4, Cold Gin from the debut. Written by Ace Frehley, and I remember seeing that on the label and thinking that Ace Frehley sang it, but because I'm a little kid, I don't know, and so no, it's Gene Simmons. And the great thing about that I used to do when I was a little kid is the rhythm guitar is on one channel, and the lead guitar is on the other. So if you turn off the right channel, you get to hear this kind of in a different key. Now, I didn't understand what keys were and whatever when I was a kid, but I just knew it sounded different when you turned off. And I would, I was a little kid. I didn't have a lot of friends. I spent all my time in my room listening to records and tapes, and I would fiddle with the balance and play around with stuff, play things backward, do things with cassette tapes and whatever. And just, I was way into it because I wasn't into anything else. So yeah, that was one of the first songs where I noticed like stereo separation. Then, like I said, when I got into the Beatles later on, and it was those early 60s stereo recordings where the vocals are on one channel. Oh man, I had a blast with that kind of thing. But yeah, the first time I was doing that was probably with Cold Gin from Kiss. But other than that, excellent song, killer guitar riff. Dun, 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 wow! So yeah, Cold Gin, awesome from Kiss. I'm not going to put down this album because we're at number 3. And at number 3, I've got the song Strutter. Now, honorable mention for Strutter 78 off Double Platinum. That was actually the first Strutter that I ever heard. That one's pretty cool as like an alternate listen every once in a while, but I prefer a version that's on here. Very first track on the first album, side 1, first thing you hear from Kiss if you're going in chronological order. And a great track from Paul Stanley. It's, it's just a great track all about this girl that you got to watch out for. She's a strutter. She's going to break your heart. She doesn't care. Yeah. Strutter, man. And like I said, just another killer guitar riff in a library of guitar riffs from Ace Frehley. Putting it down and picking it right back up for number 2. Black Diamond. My number 2 Kiss song, my number 2 favorite Kiss song of all time is a Peter Criss vocal. Black Diamond, oh man. And the one on here, now there's the one on Double Platinum, which just like Strutter 78, works as a nice alternative. It doesn't have the big long ending where the song just, they slow down the tape and slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. That's not on the Double Platinum one. And it is a different mix, but this is my favorite one. Awesome vocal from Peter Criss. Great lyrics, great just feel to that song. It's so intense and eerie and has that whole like acoustic beginning, similar to I Want You, has that whole acoustic beginning and then literally says, hit it! Then what do you get? Of course, you get another awesome guitar riff from Ace Frehley. But yeah, woo, Black Diamond, do 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 do, just amazing. Great way to end the album. You got my number 3 song is the beginning of the album. My number 4 song is my number 2 song is the ending of the album. So yeah, the great bookend. This is my favorite Kiss album by far. My second favorite one, I don't know what it is right now. They keep changing, but probably Destroyer, or maybe probably Destroyer, but. This, man, not a bad track on here. If you have the original one without Kissin' Time, I even like Love Theme from Kiss. It's not one of my top 20, but it's a cool little instrumental. I think people rag on that song. I think people would like it a lot more if it wasn't called Love Theme from Kiss. I think when they originally did it, it was called Acrobat. They should have just left that name on there, but Black Diamond, man, killer. Absolutely. Number 2. Which brings us to my absolute favorite Kiss song of all time. Notice I had not put down this album. My top 4 Kiss songs are all from this album. And my number 1 is a Paul Stanley vocal with an absolutely, wow, you guessed it, killer Ace Frehley guitar riff, 100,000 Years. The one on Alive with the extended drum solo. That was probably the first drum solo I ever heard. It's okay. This one is much, much better. The groove on that song, the guitar riff on that's got the... I will put that guitar riff up against any guitar riff ever in any song. 100,000 Years. The lyrics are great. The guitar riff is amazing. The whole feel of the song. The drums sound fantastic in that. Starts off with a nice bass riff. So you got it all on that song. And Paul Stanley's vocal is absolutely great. There's none better than there. And I realized this, like I said, when I revisited them and I dug out my old records again when I was about 16, 17, something like that, and had been listening, later on got like CDs and, started getting the CDs and then got a couple. By the way, I want to also say that when records came back into vogue and they started re-releasing records, this was the first one I got. This was the first 2000s pressing of any record ever. I wanted to see what all the hype was about. Records are back now. They're pressing records again. I hadn't bought a record since the 90s. And those were mostly like every once in a great while. And then I would get promotional albums. But then they stopped sending all those. They stopped doing that in the 2000s. I mean, records were done pretty much. They started making them again, getting popular again, putting them in, Barnes and Noble stores and record stores and whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to see what this is all about, and got this. This was my first, like 2000s record, and put it on, and it was like, that's okay. I remember not being blown away, like, oh my God, this is incredible. It's blowing my speakers out. This is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. It was like, all right, it's okay. But yeah, 100,000 Years. My favorite Kiss song ever. If you don't know what it is, if you don't like Kiss, if you think Kiss is a joke, listen to this album, all the way through. Don't listen to Kiss in Time, because it's hard to get this without Kiss in Time anymore. Skip over it, stream it, whatever. But check out 100,000 Years. Tell me I'm wrong about that not being an absolutely killer guitar riff, killer groove. Paul Stanley, great vocals, some really cool lyrics. There you have it. My top 20 Kiss tracks. Again, they're all from the 70s. I didn't make a rule I'm going to only do 70s. That's just how it is with me. I don't care about the later stuff that much. So there they are. I did make a rule about no live stuff and no solo album stuff. But other than that, there they are. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what some of your favorite Kiss songs are. I don't want to go too much into my least favorite, but yeah, Kiss in Time would be on there. Flamin' Youth would be on there. Sweet Pain would be on there. Yeah, there'd be, some of the stuff on Dress to Kill I wasn't really hip on. But yeah, man, damn. Hotter Than Hell's pretty cool. I mean, there's so many runners up, especially on Hotter Than Hell. Mainline from Peter Criss. I mean, that's pretty cool. All the Way. I always thought, Got to Choose. That's a cool one. Woo! Got to Choose. Sure Know Something from Dynasty. That's pretty cool. I like them all. I like a lot of it, but it just didn't make the top 20. So, yeah. So these are the top 20. My number one, 100,000 Years. I'm Robert Fitton, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you want more Kiss from me, definitely check out my video. Growing up, my childhood with Kiss, where I show photos of my old stuff. I've flashed by them on this one, but I show them for a lot longer and talk about more of the Kiss memorabilia and growing up and all the different things and whatever. So, and going to see them in concert and a dream coming true later on when they put back on the makeup. One of the best concert experiences I've ever had. And so, yeah, you check out that video. The link is, it should pop up here. So once again, thank you so much for watching. Back to the 1983 Deep Dive next, and I'll talk to you then.